I just want to let you all know that I'm going to be hitting the record button. So from here on out, we'll be recording this morning's program. So good morning, and thank you for joining us at the 2021 Economic Forecast. Even virtually, it really is wonderful to see all of you. I'm Jennifer Wheeler, and it's my honor and privilege to serve as the president of the Exeter Area Chamber of Commerce. It was just about a year ago that we gathered together for the 2020 Economic Forecast. The room was filled with optimism and excitement, and the theme was the economy is strong and trending positively, so now's a great time to prepare for when it's not. And then, as you know, everything changed. And here we are a year later. And while I'm sure you all have many examples to share that highlight your resilience, demonstrating the challenges you faced and the changes you made to meet those challenges, there are still many uncertainties ahead as the pandemic continues to impact our businesses and communities. Our goal in putting together today's program was to bring in experts with the experience and perspective to help businesses and the community prepare and position themselves for success in the coming year. We're confident that our speakers today will do just that, and we are very much looking forward to the conversation. Of course, this program would not be possible without the generous support from our sponsors and community partners. So please give a virtual round of applause or an emoji thumbs up and join me in thanking our underwriter, Cambridge Trust, our gold sponsor, Unitil, silver sponsor, Service Credit Union, bronze sponsor, DF Richard, Dan Glowacki of Exeter TV, who is streaming this morning's program live, and to the Chamber's Events and Marketing Director, Kim Lindquist, for organizing our program. Thank you all. Now it's my pleasure to introduce Dan Morrison, CEO of Cambridge Trust New Hampshire and the underwriter for this morning's program. Dan?
Thank you, Jen, and good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Exeter Area Chamber of Commerce Economic Forecast Breakfast. We're very proud to continue to support this. We've been the lead sponsor of this event for many years. I think I've lost track of how many years we've been doing this. Very pleased to be able to continue to do it. I remember, Jen, last year's event. You know, usually we do this at the Exeter Inn, and it's always a good event. These Zoom meetings are very efficient. You know, I like some things about it, but the missing piece is the 10 minutes before the meeting or 15 minutes when we're all having coffee and shaking hands with each other. I cannot wait until we can get back together in person and do that sort of thing again. The cow jokes and fish jokes aren't a replacement for all of that. Although I will have to save those. I have my 11-year-old grandson as my office mate today. He'll be here doing science homework with me, so I'll save those jokes for him. You know, a lot's happened in the last year. It's been a crazy year for all of us. Remember a year ago when the whole world shut down, they told us it was going to be just 2 weeks. And I turned into a month, and then it was going to be sometime in the summer we'd be able to open up. And here we are a year later, still waiting for things to get back to some kind of normal. I am optimistic. I do think that things will return to some kind of normal, hopefully this year. I hope that Andy and Liz agree with me in their economic forecast and see some light in the end. But Cambridge Trust has been busy this year. We are 95% remote, with the exception of our offices. Our retail offices are fully open and have been throughout all of this pandemic. When things shut down last spring, there was a period of just a couple of weeks last spring when we jumped into the Paycheck Protection Program, and we did hundreds of loans. We did more loans in a short time last spring than we usually do in several years. Helped save a number of our small business clients. Close to 20,000 jobs were impacted by just the loans we made. And all of the other community banks and banks in the area stepped up and did the same thing. So really proud of being able to make an impact in that way. We also really stepped up and increased by over 50% our charitable giving and support for organizations in the community, especially organizations working on the health of our communities and social justice types of organizations. So very proud to be able to help in that regard too. So enough about Cambridge Trust. I'm looking forward to the program this morning. Andy and Liz, looking forward to your comments. And again, welcome everybody, and thank you for being here. And Jen, give it back to you.
Thanks so much, Dan. We're so grateful for your continued partnership and the ongoing support from you and the team at Cambridge Trust. I'd like to introduce this morning's speakers, Andy Smith and Liz Gray. Dr. Andy Smith is the director of the University of New Hampshire Survey Center. He has more than 30 years experience in academic survey research, currently as the director of the Survey Center since 1999, following positions at the University of Wisconsin-Milwaukee and the University of Cincinnati. As director, Dr. Smith is responsible for overall staff and financial management of the UNH Survey Center. Dr. Smith's also a professor of practice and political science in the UNH Department of Political Science, where his teaching and research has focused on survey methodology, elections, and public policy. Dr. Smith is a member of the American Association for Public Opinion Research and is president of its New England chapter. He's also a founding member and past president of the Association of Academic Survey Research Organizations. Liz Gray is the state director for the New Hampshire Small Business Development Center, or SBDC. Prior to joining the SBDC in 2018, she served as Director of Entrepreneurship at the New Hampshire Business Finance Authority. She established Live Free and Start, an initiative to make New Hampshire an even better place for innovative companies to be able to start, grow, and succeed. She held the position of Economic Development Business Services Manager at the New Hampshire Department of Resources and Economic Development and has extensive experience within the political community of New Hampshire. Additionally, she worked for more than 10 years in various capacities in the offices of Governors Shaheen, Lynch, and Hassan, and as a legislative aide in the New Hampshire State Senate. In a minute, I'm going to turn the spotlight on Andy to share his remarks, and when he's done, Liz will share hers. We'll then have about 20 minutes for Q&A discussion. And given the virtual nature of this morning's program, we're going to use the breakout room feature for this part of the program. You'll have about 10 minutes with one of our speakers. We'll virtually rotate, and you'll have 10 minutes with the other speaker. And finally, we'll come back together for closing remarks and end our program. Before I turn it over to our speakers, I just wanted to remind you to please mute yourself and turn off any cat video filters that you may have. And now, without further ado, I'd like to turn it over to Andy. Andy.
Good morning, everybody. Let me do all the requisite sharing of screens here and get going because I can't go anymore without having a PowerPoint. Can everybody see my PowerPoint slide? Great. All right. Well, thanks again for having me here, and I do appreciate coming to talk with you. I was there last year, and I think we talked about optimism in the economy. What will that mean for politics across the country? And nobody saw the COVID stuff coming, but I think if we took what we were talking about with the impact of the economy on politics and turned it upside down, we pretty much saw that happen in 2020 in the elections. So I want to talk again about consumer confidence. Consumer confidence is an important indicator as consumer spending makes up about 70% of the US economy. And that spending is largely done in smaller stores. So small businesses, I think, are really important and central to that, consumer spending across the country. And so I want to talk about the consumer confidence studies that we've been doing for more than 20 years on the Granite State Poll here in Cincinnati. The Granite State Poll has historically been a telephone survey, but COVID has caused us to switch over to an online version of this survey. It's a probability-based survey, meaning that we have a random sample, randomly selected panel of about 6,000 to 7,000 people from across the state that we can randomly select groups of that larger group to participate in our Granite State polls. We interview between 1,000 and 2,000 people per month. The consumer confidence questions that I'm going to be talking about are asked quarterly. I have one big apology to give you right now, is that they're scheduled to go into the field in March. So I'm going to be talking about older ones, and I'm going to be placing bets on what will likely show in the March numbers, because I think, again, these things are still heavily influenced by politics. Last time we did this was before the election, and then the election and COVID stuff has basically just been absorbing all of our time up here. And I should mention that the New Hampshire Business and Industry Association sponsors this consumer confidence study. So first thing I want to talk about is business conditions, perceptions of business conditions in New Hampshire in the next 12 months. So this is individual people in the state's perceptions of what's likely to happen over the next 12 months. And this is a good indicator because it's typically a leading indicator for us going into recession. If you see this area right back in here, this is in 2007, before the 2008 market crash. So people were already feeling nervous, worried about where the economy was going before things really hit. I want to move forward to 2020, 21. You saw this, the people expecting bad times spike up, but nowhere close to what we saw in 2008. And I think this is a good indicator to say that the perceptions are that we've hit a stumbling block, a roadblock, but it's people aren't questioning the underlying strength of the economy. So in our most recent one in October, 35% said they believed that New Hampshire would have good conditions over the next 12 months. 25% said bad conditions, and 40% said it's going to be mixed. It depends. So this isn't great. It's not like it was prior to the hitting of COVID, but it's not terrible, which I think is kind of going to be my message throughout. And it's going to be a it depends message. Like this mixed thing here. It depends what happens. I talked about this last time, and this is, to me, what's driving a lot of the numbers we see. Our perceptions, consumer confidence is becoming a less solid measure of as an economic forecast, in part because it's so tied to partisanship now. So this slide shows the same measure by party ID. The black line is the overall average measure, red for Republicans, blue for Democrats, and green for independents. You can see when there is a Republican president like George W. Bush, Republicans were more optimistic, Democrats were pessimistic, by a fairly large gap here. Under Obama, you saw the same thing, except now Democrats are optimistic and Republicans are pessimistic. And under Trump, exactly the same sort of thing. Republicans are very optimistic. And prior to the election, 63% of Republicans said they thought things were going to be good in the next 12 months in New Hampshire, but only 5% of Democrats did. Now, the Democrats in the state of New Hampshire tend to be people with higher levels of income and higher levels of education than Republicans. These are the people who are less likely to be impacted by the economy, but it's so tied in with politics that it kind of blurs what we're showing here. Are we just showing cheerleading, or are we having accurate indications of what's going to happen? I'm willing to bet you, and this is my bet, that in March, these numbers aren't going to switch around 100%, but in March, I'm willing to bet the Democrats will be more optimistic about the state of the economy over the next 12 months, and Republicans will be more pessimistic. That's the political nature of the world we live in today. This partisan gap has been growing. It's existed throughout the whole this current century, but it reached that high of 59%, and has been fairly significantly higher during the Trump administration than it has been in other administrations. But this is, I think, kind of a warning, a further warning sign about the impact of politics on our everyday lives. Politics is now coloring how we see the world. So we either have rose-colored sunglasses or blue-colored sunglasses, and that's the way we see the economy and whether we're optimistic or pessimistic about the next year. This question asks people about their household financial condition compared to last year, 12 months ago. And with this, you can see, again, not great, but it's not terrible. It's nothing like the 2008, 2009 period where people said, yes, I am worse off than I was a year ago, which took a long time for that to recover. In fact, it's not terribly different than it was in, say, 2014, 2015. Most recently, 30% say they're better off than they were a year ago. 25% say they're worse off. 45% say they're about the same. And this is important because I don't think that this is an indication that not as many people were as economically impacted by the COVID crisis here as we may have feared. And that may be because they've got their jobs are still there. They may be working from home, maybe working fewer hours, maybe have gotten the assistance from federal government, state governments to kind of tie them through here. But there is also the same partisan difference that among Republicans, they think they're much better off. Among Democrats, not so much. What I'm doing here. And so only 10% of Democrats think that they're better off than they were a year ago, whereas 50% of Republicans were. That the economy is not party specific. And then this question asks about, where do you think you will be a year from now? And again, we got something kind of mixed, but it's not much different than it was prior to COVID. 43% say we're going to be about the same. 40% think they're going to be better off. And that may be due to COVID. They are worse off this year. So next year they think they're going to be better off. But only 17% think they're going to be worse off. So again, we've got a down economy. But I think people understand that this is a short-term dip in the economy, not reflecting overall fundamentals. And they're seeing that in their personal finances and their personal lives. So this is going to be the big driver. When do you think the economy will open up? And unfortunately, we still have about 48%, half of the public, thinking that things really aren't going to open up for another 12 months. So this was in fall, so this would be fall of 2021. So there are a lot of people that are not very optimistic about things going back to normal. And I think this is likely the case. We're hearing discussions out of Washington about having to wear face masks from maybe now to eternity, that internal travel may be curtailed, other things that are certainly not going to be helpful for the economy. Certainly in New Hampshire, with the impact, with the size of our tourist travel and tourism economy, I think that's going to be the area in New Hampshire that's still largely hurt by COVID and the restrictions on travel or people's just unwillingness to travel going forward. So this is the downside that I see here. And if you look at who is feeling more or less optimistic about when the economy is going to change, well, it's again driven by party. That's still the biggest difference. Only 21% of Democrats think things are going to be open in less than 12 months. 82% of Republicans do. This is likely to change again now that the party in the presidency has changed, but there is that difference. It's a bigger difference than there is across any other demographic group. And finally, what I'd like to do is kind of tee this up for Liz going forward, is to talk briefly about a survey that we've been conducting with the Small Business Development Center. It's a New Hampshire Small Business Resiliency Survey. This was done first off in June of 2020. We're currently in the field right now. And I won't tease you, but I'll tease you that there will be results coming, and those results will be more solid if all of you would complete the survey that you've gotten. So if you haven't had the opportunity to complete the survey, please do. And I think it's a very good indicator or a good way of understanding what's happened with businesses, because we've already presented the findings from the first round of this survey to the governor's committee that is looking at all aspects of COVID relief, and that's been very helpful. We're going to be presenting the next wave of this survey, which we're in the field now, to policymakers soon. So if you want people to understand how businesses, and particularly your business, is being impacted and what you would like to see the state government do, please fill this out. One of the questions that we asked is what's happened to your business's revenue over because of COVID. 5% said, this was back in June, and I say the numbers now are a little bit better, but they're still not real good. But 5% of people back in June said that their revenues had actually increased. 10% said they had stayed the same, and 82% said their revenues had decreased. Now, again, I've seen some preliminary results on our current survey, but it's still about 70% of small businesses in the state say their revenues have decreased. That's not a final number, but that's a significant impact. As you all know, as business people, if your revenues decrease, you have to do several things. You postpone investment, you lay off workers, you cut corners here and there. It's a challenge, and all of those things across the economy, all of those decisions that are made by individual businesses ripple across the economy and impact the entire economy. And it will impact things like unemployment rates, gross state product, and the number of businesses that are able to stay open. So we've kind of weathered the worst of it. We've made a shift. We've made the individual changes within our businesses. The public still expects this to get back to normal reasonably quickly. And when it does, they're anticipating that they're going to be able to step back into a fairly strong economy. But I think you guys know as businesses that that's hard to do. You can't just make that money magically appear that didn't come into your coffers over the last year. So my final conclusions are that the New Hampshire economy will unfortunately kind of stay weak over the next year until the fear of COVID is past. And I think that's going to be longer than we anticipated. Dan started off saying this was first going to be a 2-week issue, and then it was a month issue. And here we are a year later and we're still in it. I don't know if we're still going to be this deep into it a year from now, but I think we will be for many more months. And that, again, is going to be impacting all the business bottom lines across the state. Consumer confidence is so-so. It's not great, but given all of the things that have happened over the last year, it's surprisingly high. And I think that's a glimmer of hope that we have, that the people who have been sitting at home really want to go out to restaurants. They want to go out to bars. They want to go out and spend money. They want to do stuff that people would normally do. There's a lot of pent-up demand, as economists would say. And I think that that's likely to somewhat explode once the lid's kind of lifted off what we're allowed to do. And I think that is a really glimmer, I would say, not even a glimmer of hope. It's really the big, nice light at the end of the tunnel that is getting closer for businesses in the state. I say here, confidence among Democrats will increase. You'll be shocked to see how now, a month after inauguration, Democrats are going to think the economy is great, and Republicans think it's going to go to hell. But that's human nature. That's the political world that we live in. But I think that Republicans are likely to stay fairly high. They tended to stay higher during the Obama years than Democrats got lower in either the Bush or the Trump years. I think maybe we'll have a little bit more bipartisanship in our consumer confidence measures. And the unfortunate thing, I think, for New Hampshire is that travel and tourism, I think, are going to continue to be hit the strongest. The travel restrictions that are there from neighboring states, the travel, let alone states further to the south and away, the continued almost non-existence of our travel airline passengers is the kind of thing that I think is going to continue to impact New Hampshire. And I guess all we can do is look at the opportunities for growth. If anybody's a real entrepreneur and you're looking around for business opportunities, this might be the time to look at travel and tourism businesses, buy low when the price is low. So those are really the things that I've got to say. Happy to answer questions about this going forward. I really appreciate this forum because you guys always have really good questions. And I think, unfortunately, good for you to do it, but it's unfortunate that you really understand the relationship of politics and policy and the perceptions here, because this is one of the most unfortunate things that I see in our society today is how we view the world so differently, and how the change of an administration can make us view things very differently when in reality, things underlying are about the same. So thanks again.
Thanks so much, Andy. Liz, let's turn it over to you.
All right, good morning. Let me first try to do my screen share and, all right, how did I do? Do you guys see it? Awesome. Well, that's one thing to be relieved about so far. All right. Well, thank you again, Jen, for inviting me. It is absolutely wonderful to be here today. And, honestly, I need to tell your members, I have truly enjoyed getting to know you and working more closely with the Exeter Area Chamber in the last year. I know we have so much more to do together and to accomplish, but I have a lot of hope and optimism in what we can accomplish, just knowing how truly outstanding you are as a partner. So thank you. And like Dan said earlier, I hope to see you all in person next year to share coffee, a bad joke, a handshake, or even a hug. I'm definitely a hugger. So, but for now, it's wonderful to see you all safe and healthy in your homes or in your office. So, but for today, what my plan was to tell you a little bit about SBDC and how our work has changed in the last year and what the year ahead looks like for us as well as our clients. And then Andy and I are going to do a little bit more tag teaming on talking about the business resiliency surveys and the results there, and what's to come. So let's see. Now I just need to make the slide click over. Okay, we're in business. All right, so who is SBDC? We are a cooperative agreement of the U.S. Small Business Administration, the state of New Hampshire, and the University of New Hampshire. UNH has proudly been our host institution for all 36 years, almost 37 that we've been around. And as you see, we're funded in lots of different ways, but primarily through SBA, the state, and a number of other local and private sector partners. We are also a part of a larger national association, America's SBDC. They provide a lot of great learning opportunities and just support for our entire team. But most importantly, I would say, we are the trusted resource small businesses have turned to for guidance, assurance, and straight answers for 36 years. That is really who we are and what we are. It's our mission. Our goal is to support our businesses however we can, and to do to just see them through tough times. So speaking of what we do, we provide that highly individualized, confidential business advising and training for our small businesses. Whether a business is just getting started, needs support creating that business plan, they're seeking capital, whether it's a loan or if it's non-traditional financing, bringing a new product to market, trying to export for their first time, or they're ready to sell their company. Our advisors are there to help them achieve those goals, however big or however small they are. Our services are primarily offered through three main areas. So again, the business advising first and foremost, but then also the information that we have online, whether it's our resources or in the last year, all of the webinars that we were able to create and some new e-courses. And the big piece that you guys all really need to kind of take away from this is, or to remind folks, is that we provide our services at no cost. So that means that businesses everywhere are able to access us. There is no fee for our advising. There is no small fee to take a webinar or for our e-courses. We are here. We provide this service to businesses. Another kind of key takeaway is the fact that we are very much a complementary service provider. What we do is very unique in terms of our highly individualized advising. However, we can partner very nicely with the chambers, with regional economic development corporations, with the team over at Business and Economic Affairs. We want to make sure that our role is very, very specific, but also we like to make referrals back and forth because we want any business that comes into us to be able to access additional resources, whether it's the chamber, an RDC, or whoever it is throughout the state. I think another big thing, thinking about like how SBDC changed just in the last year. So when COVID hit, we, like all of our clients and, the chambers and every other organization, we needed to pivot very quickly to respond to businesses' needs right from the start of the crisis. So what did we do? We put together our COVID assistance landing page to curate information and make sure that we had the best information updated on a daily basis in many cases or multiple times during the day to make sure, again, the information that we had was the best information that we could give to our chamber partners to get out to your members or for our businesses. We've had over 33,000 visits to that one page. We created and delivered over 200 webinars. This was brand new to us. Again, this was one of those COVID innovations, you could say, for SBDC, but that's how we were able to reach more than 5,000 individuals. And, in addition to that, like all of the, the best practices that we put online from our advisors, just a lot of different ways for us to provide information and stay up to speed on what was happening. All right, so who do we serve? Every business that we serve is completely different, as you can imagine, and comes with a very unique set of challenges and needs. But we recognize those differences and meet our clients where they are, whether they're a business of one or all the way on up to 499 employees. We pride ourselves on building that long-term and meaningful relationship with the business. Our advisors provide, expert guidance for primarily for-profit companies. We do work with some nonprofits, but for-profit companies in all stages of business, of life cycle. So the pre-venture, startup, growth, reinvention, and on through transition. Our team is absolutely outstanding, and they have a really diverse set of capabilities and experience that allows them to serve businesses in any industry, from service to manufacturing, retail to technology, construction to agribusiness, and you name it, the list keeps on going. In 2020, we, as you can imagine, saw a significant increase in clients, but I couldn't be more proud of our team because they rose to the challenge and helped our clients access, COVID relief programs, transition from bricks and mortar to online, and craft some really, really unique and innovative solutions, which allowed them to not only survive, but in many cases, thrive. In terms of our client base, we are definitely diverse, geographically. We have a fairly even split between male and female clients. We're about 9% of our clients are veterans, about 6% are minority. And then in terms of industries that we serve, retail, professional services, accommodation and food services are kind of our top three business sectors. So they're roughly 10 to 12% each of our clients. And then in terms of in business versus not yet in business, 77% of our clients are in business. It's a little bit higher than it was in 2019, but that's where we are. As you can imagine, not as many people were starting businesses last year. That said, we still were able to support 37 new business owners. All right, so our team, we have a small but mighty team of 19. We added 6 in 2020. And like I said earlier, I think our team is stronger than ever. We've come together in some really new and exciting ways. All of our advisors are certified business advisors, former business owners, and many have advanced certifications, whether it's an MBA, a PhD. We've got CPAs on our team, but most of all, they are so passionate and dedicated to the businesses they serve. Here is your Seacoast regional team led by Warren Daniel, and then 3 other business advisors, Ed Miles, Jill Spee, and Amy Sterndale. I think Amy joined you last year for this event. But if you need any of those services, if you want to reach out to any one of them, they cover the entire region. So great team there. All right, so numbers. This is the impact that we had just last year. we supported over 7,000 businesses through direct advising and training. I think one of the big numbers, I put it off on the right side, $166 million is our total annual economic impact for the state of New Hampshire. The first time we did this calculation with an economist at UNH Paul College, when he gave us a number, it was 2 years ago, and it was 147 million. I looked at him like, you're nuts, what? I was waiting for like a 14 million. And he's like, no, Liz, this is how I did it. This is it. I'm the economist. These are trust the numbers. So then we did it, we updated it for 2020, and now it's 166 million. And again, it still blows my mind, but I'm blown away, but so proud to be able to say that that is what we are doing for the state of New Hampshire, in addition to supporting all of our clients. And, 37 new business starts. We helped our clients access over $44 million in new capital. Much of that was with the support of our local community banks and having them provide the PPP loans and others. But we also help them, grow their sales by over $9 million, despite what was happening throughout the pandemic. So it's really exciting. And, I think these are this is just a kind of a snapshot of what we did in 2020. So kind of going forward, I wanted to tell you a little bit more about some of the really unique things that we did with partners. The first one is created the SBDC and the Chambers of Commerce Collaborative. This was a really exciting one that actually came out of a conversation when we presented to the chambers the 2020 survey results. And several of the chambers said, this is awesome. I'm so glad that we partnered with you on the survey. The Seacoast region ended up having a separate survey report done on just the businesses, and I think there were 432 businesses that responded from the Seacoast region. And that survey helped to guide the Exeter Chamber, the Portsmouth Chamber, and other Seacoast chambers to help them figure out what their businesses needed, very specific to their region. And again, the chamber said to me, okay, well, what are we going to do from here? How are we going to stay in touch? We've come so far in just a few months. So we ended up bringing on Nathan Carroll, who is the former executive director of the Littleton Chamber. He did some great research for us, a number of focus groups, put together some recommendations on what we could do. And then we launched this collaborative. And what it is really just an opportunity for us to formalize the partnership that we already had, but making sure that, we were doing that check-in and that we were doing more regular updates. Because to be a partner, to me, it's not just, hi, I want to partner with you. I'll see you next year. And we can just reaffirm our partnership. I want to have conversations. I want to better understand what Jen needs, what the chamber needs, what your businesses need, and how can we support you. So this is definitely helping us make those relationships stronger. And I'm really excited about that. All right, so the resiliency survey, as Andy mentioned, we are partnering with the Survey Center to do a series of 3 surveys. We did the June 2021. We've got the one out there now. And after I finish this, I will put the link to the survey, Jen, if you don't mind, in the chat so that everybody can just click it and go and fill it out at the end of the event. And then the last of the surveys will take place in June of this year. So we're super excited about that. But the key findings, as Andy had mentioned, we knew businesses were struggling, but what the survey did was really quantify that data. We saw the decline in revenue. More than 50% or 50% saw revenues decrease more than 50%, and that they had less employees in February of 2020 in June of 2020 from February. So a lot of stuff that we already knew. I don't need to read off all of the major concerns, but things I'm sure you saw, you heard, or as a business you felt and you struggled with. Maintaining sales, customers, managing cash flow, all of those things, worrying about how you are going to keep your teams and your customers, your clients safe if you're seeing them in person. But I think we also saw some hope coming out of the survey. Businesses, because our local banks were able to support so many businesses. I think there were, Dan, you might need to help me out this, but I'm pretty sure SBA said that there was like $2.5 billion that came into the state through PPP and the EIDL program last year alone. That is outstanding, the amount of support. And then if you look at the Main Street Relief, the childcare program that the state invested, I think somewhere around 500 or so million dollars back into the businesses here in New Hampshire. So I think kind of going forward, we are going to hopefully see our businesses start turning around. Oops, I moved too fast. But Andy, I would love any more of your thoughts on kind of what else we saw, and if you have any more tidbits, I'm super excited because I haven't heard any of the current survey results. So if you've got more details to share.
Well, I think that there are some interesting things that are coming up. That will come out of this survey. One of the things that I think is not particularly optimistic but it's something that I think that we understood, is that this has the COVID has had a very big impact on the number of employees and the unemployment rate across the state. 14 currently, so these are preliminary numbers, these are not final numbers, preliminary. 14% of businesses in the state, small businesses said they have more employees now than they did a year ago. 47%, that same amount, 39% fewer employees. So that, I think, is a strong kind of an indicator that the benefit of this survey, it's obviously getting some information is nice, but what is done with that survey? And I think what was really good after the first round, and I think it's going to be even more important after the second round, is that policymakers in Concord use these data and have used this as part of their information, their planning information for what to do with parts of the economy. So concerns about, I think one of the things that came out of this was some of the reopening of indoor and outdoor dining last year that we saw probably earlier than might be the case, just because those businesses were being hammered so badly by loss of their inability to have customers in. So the survey is very important, but it's what is done with it that is more important. And I think Liz has got her longtime connections in Concord and the trust that they have in the SBDC in Concord put us in front of the right people to really help small businesses get some more support and have some of the policy changes that we saw over the last 6 months.
Yeah, thanks, Andy. Looking forward to seeing the rest of the results. And, we were pleased that we did see so many responses from businesses on what they did to change. I think we all know moving to e-commerce, we know the curbside or the delivery options that a lot of businesses did. But it was really neat to hear about some of the partnerships that local businesses did, whether it was a shared space that somebody, like 2 restaurants use, one in the morning and then one in the afternoon and the evening, or local businesses like Tucker's, who they do great breakfast, but they were also selling local eggs from local farms. Like, there's so many stories about that, and that a lot of the businesses said that they were going to continue doing that to be able to support one another, because they've realized they can't do it alone. Nobody should try to do this alone, and that they needed to reach out and connect to support their fellow business, but also to rely on resources like us, like Chambers and others. So again, hope, but that might be my eternal optimist coming out. So we'll see. Another thing that came out of the survey was the creation of this Small Business and Community Resiliency Academy. And that is exciting because 19% of the survey respondents in 2020 said that they had a resiliency plan in place pre-COVID, whereas 73% said, oh yeah, I need a resiliency plan. And that's going to be really important for the future of my business. And I think now more than ever, people are realizing that they do need a plan in place. They need to step back from the daily operations of what they're doing to create that plan, to look at communications, to look at supply chain and what happens if that's disrupted, or to think through, how am I going to communicate with my team? How am I going to connect with my customers or my suppliers and vendors if not only if there's a pandemic, but if there's a fire, if there's a flood, what do I do? And having that plan in place will make a business, will hopefully help a business recover more quickly. I think the stat up here is kind of alarming when FEMA says that 40% of businesses don't actually recover. That scared me when I saw that, but it also motivated me to figure out a solution. So we are teaming up with UNH Cooperative Extension to bring New Hampshire its first ever Small Business and Community Resiliency Academy. And that's an opportunity to bring not only businesses together to talk about resiliency plans and development, but community leaders and other economic development partners to see what a plan, how to put a plan together and why it's so important to have that safety network and that those resources, those local resources to check in with. So another really exciting piece of it is that we are putting together regional business cohorts. Jen has already signed up to bring members from the chamber. She will be paired up with one of the business advisors from the Seacoast region. And on the alternating weeks of the academy, Jen and one of our SBDC advisors will meet with that cohort of local businesses to walk them through the steps in the process to create or to update their resiliency plan. And I look forward to seeing how that cohort grows and how it comes together. And it doesn't need to be a business that doesn't have a plan. I hope we get some businesses that have a plan that want to share how they developed it, why it's so important to have that plan and not just create a plan and put it on a shelf and then let dust collect and maybe take it off in a year or two. It's to make sure that it's a living and breathing document that your team understands, that you understand, that is updated and kept going. So we will see where that goes, but I'm looking forward to working with the chamber on that. So quickly, just to look ahead, like there's so much that happened last year and there's so much more that's going to be happening in 2021. But really the focus for us on the business advising side is recovery and helping our businesses become more resilient. We want them to stay here. We want them to grow. But I think the recovery piece is going to be, it's where we're going to be for a while. We've got the survey. We've got a new cybersecurity initiative that we'll be announcing with the Tech Alliance soon. Some great new e-courses you'll see rolling out in our newsletter and online over the next couple weeks. So lots of really exciting things. And last but not least, I wanted to share some business tips from our great advisors. So first and foremost, as you can imagine, we strongly encourage every business to reach out to whether it's us or to one of the SBA partners, whether it's the Center for Women in Enterprise, SCORE, your chambers, your regional development corporations. Like, make sure that you are connecting with these free resources that are available to you. We want to support you. We want to support your friends, your colleagues that own small businesses. Let us help you kind of take all of that information and figure out that path forward over the next few weeks and months. The next one, solidify your advising team. Having a trusted CPA is probably more important than ever with all of the tax changes and implications with the new relief programs. Be more proactive with how you're communicating with your business stakeholders. And when I say stakeholders, it's your customers, your lenders, suppliers, and other partners so that you're maintaining that strong relationship because there are going to be a lot of bumps in the road over the year ahead. And you want to make sure that they know what's happening in your world and you know what's happening in theirs, so that there aren't too many additional disruptions. If you haven't already closed out your 2020 books, get that done ASAP. Looking forward, creating realistic goals with short-term milestones around marketing and sales. That's another high priority from our perspective. And then, keeping an eye out on how your markets may be changing and impacted by the pandemic versus looking out too far. And we want to make sure that you're kind of very hyper-focused on the right channels for your business over the next few months. And, it's frustrating. The pandemic is not over and we don't know what challenge is next. So again, going back to look at your resiliency plan and be aware of what is happening on the cybersecurity side of things as well. And, last but not least, plan to attend the Small Business Resiliency Academy. Things kick off on April 7th. Oh, and I should have mentioned, it's free of charge for everyone. We're really excited to be able to bring this academy to you. It'll be virtual. Everything will be online and free. We want as many people as possible coming together, learning together, and supporting each other so that New Hampshire's businesses are more resilient. They're creating jobs and survive and thrive over the next few weeks and months. And here's my email address, our website. You can follow us on social media, check out our website and learn more about what we do, and take an e-course, also free, really great ones coming out. So thank you so much. I hope I didn't go over too much on my time, but thank you.
Thanks, Liz. I appreciate that. So what we're going to do now is I'm going to open up the breakout rooms, and you'll have 10 minutes with each of our speakers. At the end of 10 minutes, I will either try to swap out our speakers virtually or come back to the big room and then split you back up. So enjoy. So I guess my suggestion would be to take advantage of the expertise and the knowledge that our speakers bring, and I look forward to hearing about the discussion. So with that, I am opening up the rooms.